Welcome back to another episode of the Wrinkly Brain Podcast. This is a SmoothBrain EDH affiliated podcast where we like to goof, gaff, and talk about the Commander format. I'm your host, Jason, joined today by my co-hosts, Ethan.
Hello.
And Cameron.
Howdy, y'all.
And today we have a very special guest, our friend Phil, aka ThrabenU.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
It has been a minute since we've had a guest on the podcast. I'm very happy to have a guest.
All right. And Phil's our first return guest. Is that also correct?
Yes.
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 Yes. We should know.
Fastest way to a podcast's heart, invite them all to a nice breakfast in Vegas, and, you just get your clout points.
Honestly,
Easy.
Fair enough.
That breakfast was bomb.
Excellent.
My mother was jealous of my ex-Benedict for sure.
It was great. And at that, you mentioned a couple, we had a nice conversation about a couple things, but one of the things you mentioned is you wanted to build a new commander deck.
Yeah, so I was in Vegas. I did 3 days worth of Magic where it was primarily just regular casual EDH with the exception of Commander Sealed that I did one morning. And I have 3 casual decks. I have Delina Wild Mage, Preston the Vanisher, and Zonksha Sleeper Agent. And that's enough for a normal weekend. That's not enough for a Magic Con. And I felt like I needed a 4th deck. And I don't have anything in either blue or green. And I don't really have anything that just really wants to get in the red zone and do some punchies. So this crew here has decided to help me out in determining my next commander.
Absolutely. Yeah, as mentioned, we were given 2 conditions, that it had to have green and or blue in it, and it needed to win through combat damage. That had to be the goal of the deck. So, we scoured the internet to find the finest punchies commanders with at least one of these colors. But before we jump into this, Phil, I have some questions for you.
Fire away.
So, I decided to do a Scryfall search to see, well, how many commanders do we have at this time? And there's still commanders being spoiled for the new Doctor Who set. But at this time, it turns out of the 1,892 commanders that have been printed, 1,084 of them meet the color requirements here. So, bit over half of the commanders we could play.
I'm more shocked that over half of the commanders have either green or blue.
Yeah,
I'm not. when you think about multicolor, there's at least partner pairings, and then there's also just like the 4 or 5 color commanders. A lot of 3 color that have green or blue. It's really Mardu is the only thing there, and there's a lot of overlap. So I'm not surprised.
So, with all of those options, we had a couple questions. Like, we wanted to get some ideas from you that might help with some of our recommendations. Obviously, we've already made our decisions, but when you're doing this at a commander pod, it's great to ask these questions anyway. So, how strong is your deck? When do you want the games to end? What are we pushing for?
So I like that casual sweet spot where I say if you have a 7 or an 8 drop spell, you should be able to cast that spell in a game.
Okay.
So I don't want to end the game super quickly. I'm here to chill. I've got a Tivit CEDH deck for when we're here to party, but the average person at a con is not ready for that.
All right.
I respect it. We all like the vibe here.
All right. With Rampant Commander, obviously you can get out of hands pretty quickly, but it sounds like we're trying to shoot for one of my favorite areas, which is the game goes for at least 7 turns and a few more beyond. Okay, excellent. Are we down to play typal decks or no? How much of that theme do we want to go?
So it's not a hard no for me, but it's probably not gonna excite me.
Okay.
I do so much of that in Legacy because there's so many, strong creature types, goblins, humans in particular, that 100-card singleton version of Cast Muxus deck, I don't know.
Okay. I mean, obviously your favorite tribe, Merfolk, right? Or type, Merfolk.
For anyone not in on the joke, I was a long-time Death and Taxes player, a very good Aethervile deck in Legacy, and Merfolk was kind of a competing deck, and I just hated everything about it. I hated the play patterns. I felt like there were no real decisions, and so I meme pretty hard that I hate the deck.
And the other question we have here is, how do we feel about infinite combos?
I am down to infinite combo. That is something that I think is okay in a casual game, with the caveat that if you're playing a bunch of tutors and running infinite combos, it's not nearly as okay if you're just like, oh, there's a Splinter Twin and a Zealous Conscripts in my deck. One in every 200 games, I might draw them both at the same time. I think that's fine. Or I want it to be a little convoluted, like my Preston the Vanisher deck. That deck is going infinite somehow, and it's different every single time, and I don't know how it's going to do it, but it'll find a way.
Excellent.
So what I'm hearing is tutors are cringe.
That is our
No.
motto. Is tutors are cringe.
Yeah. If I'm going to tutor, I'm more okay with something like a Green Sun Zenith than a Demonic Tutor.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Right.
That makes sense.
For sure.
So at least got something narrow to what it's doing. All right, then. So let's get into our recommendations. Each of us have 3 recommendations for you. Who would like to go first? Oh, stage fright?
Oh,
I
I'm going.
Jason was basically first up on the list, so I was going to
Yeah, no,
let
it doesn't
Jason
matter.
take it, but no, sure. What do I do?
That order doesn't matter. That's just there because I put my stuff down first.
Sure.
All right.
What you got
I guess
first, Cameron?
I'm going to go first. This is a deck I've played before on the channel. It is blue and green fill, so I know that fits both of
That
those
is
requirements.
checking boxes.
This card is Tanazir Quandrix from the Strixhaven set. I think that was just one set, right?
It's the main
Yep.
set, yeah.
Yes. So I'll read it out for those uninitiated. It is 3 green and blue for a flying trample 4/4 Elder Dragon. When it enters the battlefield, double the number of 1/1 counters on target creature you control. And whenever it attacks, you may have the base power and toughness of other creatures you control become equal to Tanazir Quandrix's power and toughness until end of turn. So, this deck's really cool in my opinion because you get to play a bunch of dorks and bunch of low-cost ETB stuff, like Coiling Oracle, and then get your Tanazir Quandrix down and then just start swinging for, at minimum, 4. But if you're able to also, put counters on Tanazir Quandrix with its trigger on the stack, then you can make it 8 or you can be swinging for big punchies very quick.
I like big punchies, and anyone who has ever played Commander with me knows that I've got a little bit of a fetish for ETB triggers. Basically every deck that I ever build just goes and abuses ETB triggers in some way.
Not to spoil, I think we picked up on that and tried to pick choices kind of around that so you're not doing the same exact thing every time. We'll get there, but I think we all picked up on that fact.
Look, I'll say we don't know our audience perfectly, but we do watch your videos at least sometimes.
We do.
For whomever's editing this, I will try to keep the card amounts that I talk about at a minimum. But the card Forgotten Ancient is probably the biggest all-star in this deck. Being able to go 3 and a green. It's a Mana Gorger Hydra effect, but at your upkeep, you can move any number of 1/1 counters from Forgotten Ancient onto other creatures. So you can just, it's Mana Gorger Hydra, so 3 turns, 4 turns, it'll be 1 turn cycle. It'll be like a 4/4 or 5/5. Put all those counters on Tanazir and big punchies.
Yeah,
Sound effects necessary.
I have cast Mana Gorger Hydra in multiple constructed formats and enjoyed the hell out of that card. So
God.
this is definitely rustling my jimmies.
I'm glad I could do that.
We're gonna give this one an 8-star review. This is a good choice.
Excellent.
And
Good first
I can
choice.
speak firsthand that it's really fun because I think this is the only one that I've talked about that I've played. And I still have it back there. It's just scraps. We know how deck building goes.
Yeah. Part of the reason that we're having this whole conversation is I put together multiple different proxied EDH decks in an attempt to find things that I liked. And I played a few things like Thali and the Gitrog monster twice. And I'm like, nope, this one's not for me. I thought I was going to love it. And then it didn't work out in practice.
Doesn't always end up being the way that you want it, right? But sometimes, or at least a lot of commanders give you some different options, but you got to find the ones that truly shine through for you, as opposed to just being generally fun or generally good.
The forever deck, the coveted title.
Absolutely.
My one guilty pleasure in this deck is I get to play Stubborn Denial. As a former like Shadow player in Modern many years ago, that card honestly in the correct commander deck probably doesn't see enough play just because like it's one mana counter magic. So that tickles my fancy.
Absolutely. All right, Ethan, you or me?
I'll go. Phil, you don't have a ramp deck really. I got a ramp deck that punches also hard. I actually wrote the word punchies in my notes, and Camera stole that from me. So I'm a little mad about that.
Punchies is universal. It's not.
it was my thing.
Hey! These hands are rated E for everyone. Let's go, baby.
Like, we're punching everybody,
right.
dog.
So let's make some bacon. Let's talk about Raggadragga Goreguts Boss. This is a 4-drop 4/4, and it's Gruul, so 2, a red and a green. Legendary creature, human boar. Each creature you control with a mana ability gets +2/+2. Whenever a creature you control with a mana ability attacks, untap it. Whenever you cast a spell, if at least 7 mana was spent to cast it, untap target creature. It gains +7/+7 and trample until end of turn. You get mana dorks, and you get big swing punchies. Your Alena War Elves can be a 10-10 swinging in. Come on.
And this is one from Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate. And I thought I knew that set pretty well, but this one had slipped by me.
It's a pretty fun one. It's one I've looked at. You're in Gruul, so you get some good aggressive threats. Plenty of mana dorks. You want your Birds of Paradise swinging in as a flyer with a 9/10? Come on, it's great. If you're a big fan of anime, Demon Slayer, it looks like a Nosuke. So you could build a theme deck around Demon Slayer if you wanted to go that route. Not necessary, but it's an option. The other thing, you want to do combat damage, but if you want a backup plan, note that Raggadragga only specifies spell. So you can do big, large X spells. If you wanted a kind of a reach of Crackle power, just to say, hey, the ground's kind of gummed up, I can't get through, you could Crackle power or do a big old quarter column. You're ramping pretty hard with this deck. And so creatures like Mavren, the Nurturer, that tap for equal number of its power, you can make absurd amounts of mana pretty quick and then make those casting the spells into a way to finish the game with that third ability on Raggadragga. So you get the green ramp and still punchies. I like this card a lot. Like, it's cool.
That's not bad. This is appealing, but unfortunately, I'm more of a waifu guy than an Inosuke guy.
Damn.
So I think we're gonna have to dock some points for that.
I took a risk.
No, I think this is a neat commander, but I don't know that I'm into like mana dorks being a central part of the deck. Like I'm fine with the mana dorks accelerating me to the big flashy thing, but I don't know. I'm gonna say this one is a 6-star out of 10.
So, not to advocate for my opponent here, but also we're talking about punchies. This is an exceptional extra combat deck. If you want to punch even more.
Actually, now.
And note, you really don't have. You could just focus on just the big spell ramp and then just make a big creature. Granted, it's very focused on mana abilities on creatures, but you're going to play those anyway in green generally. So you can see it as more incidental upside and then using Raggadragga as a way to buff your creatures just from casting big spells.
Yeah, I like reconsidering it with extra combat steps, like along with some of the creatures that give just trample generically to your stuff. You know, this is kind of an 11/11 commander for 4 mana. That's actually appealing. We're gonna bump this one up to a 7. I actually like this.
Okay.
Fury of the Horde, you can essentially pitch 2
Welcome,
cards. Thank you, Cameron. Honestly, you're my saving grace right now. Fury of the Horde is a 7-drop spell. Though granted, it says 7 mana to cast it, so you can't free cast it.
Yeah, you
I had to read the card to explain the card.
Yes.
But it's still a 7 mana extra combat step.
I mean, it's fine. You can just cast like one of the dragons that gives you extra combat steps. One of them's a 6 or 7 cost. It might be able to
Hellkite Charger. This
Yeah.
this goes easy infinite with Hellkite Charger. Like baby easy infinite.
Yeah. Yeah, you just need to
Cameras,
get a creature
cameras
that
do
can
my
tap for a
podcast
lot
for
of
me.
mana.
Thanks, bud.
You're welcome, dude.
Also, again, not to sell to sell it from an opponent, but this is a completely different deck. One of the decks I played against at Vegas that was really, really cool was somebody had a Belcher deck with Raggadragga as the commander. Yeah, if you have no lands in your
Go
deck.
on.
Yeah, it's straight up as you would expect, kind of like the modern Belcher deck, where there are no lands in the deck. The goal is to try to recross the paths to set up your deck, or try to find Belcher and get it into play. You're playing all the mana dorks, all the things with mana abilities, so you can generate a lot of mana, and you have big costed spells that can help bridge from Raggadragga to getting a Belcher into play. So it was a pretty interesting deck overall. It was playing it against a CDH table as well, and it won on like turn 5. So that was pretty cool that it was able to do that.
Yeah, golf clap for that one. Well done. That is cool design.
Anywhere.
Oh yeah, super cool. I still have the list. I will try to post it in the description if I remember. All right, my turn.
Yep, that's enough bacon talk for now.
Let's see if I can make this do what I want it to do. See, Phil, knowing that you're a teacher, I'm sure you are very used to... Oh, can I not actually share it?
Oh, he's trying to share a screen.
I could share a screen. There we go. I can share a screen. Let's see how this works.
Oh.
There we go.
Ooh.
As a teacher, I know you love PowerPoint presentations. I know you love them. So I present to you PowerPoint presentation because I love Phil more.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So
we've been defeated.
Yeah, we lose.
You want to smack some dudes around? You want to get swole? You want to sing the glories of Phyrexia? Well, let's start with Ezuri, Claw of Progress. This is a 4-mana 3/3 legendary creature Phyrexian Elf Warrior. Whenever a creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you get an experience counter. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, put X 1/1 counters on another creature you control, where X is the number of experience counters you get. So, why do we want to play Ezuri? I mean, it's all upside. Look at that face. You get +1/+1 counter support. You get new cards to play with, as obviously this is a card from Phyrexia. It plays very, very well with Proliferate, because you can proliferate the experience counters and the 1/1 counters. You get to play small creature aggro, something that I know you're very familiar with, Phil. It has great scaling into the late game if things start to drag out, giving you great high and low power options, and it's in both the colors that were requested. Also, we have combo potential if we want it. You can play Sage of Hours, which is a 2-mana 1/1 human wizard with Heroic. Whenever you cast a spell that targets Sage of Hours, you put a 1/1 counter on it. You're never targeting it, so don't worry about that part. The important thing is the other ability. Remove all +1/+1 counters from it, and take, for each of 5 counters removed this way, take an extra turn after this one. So, if you get to 5 experience counters with your Ezuri in play, and you get your Sage of Hours down, you have assembled infinite turns. And, of course, if you just get more counters, you can actually stack multiple turns in a row, and then pivot into actually beating your opponent down and putting those counters elsewhere. So, look at that. It's so powerful. It does all of these things. This baby can fit so many small creatures in it. I mean, it's really insane. It can also fit so many counters. Just so many counters.
That's honestly pretty appealing. I will say I'm a little burnt on +1/+1 counters deck.
Mm-hmm.
I got the Tyrannid Precon, and I was just finding that I was getting just absolutely overrun before I could get all my cool +1/+1 counter stuff set up.
Mm-hmm.
Or I was finding that I was just like eating it really hard to board wipes. So I think this checks a lot of boxes for me, but I don't know that I would enjoy this long term.
Absolutely. And I think this is one of those commanders that does really benefit when you start going to some of the more high power stuff. It's always going to get new toys, because obviously you're always going to get new creatures with 2 power. Also, I forgot to mention, if you wanted to, you can play this with Infect, which is a unique option. Not always a selling point for some people, but a selling point for others. When you get access to cards like Jeweled Lotus and Fierce Guardianship, this commander does start high rolling very quickly because you do want to be up to, like, you want to get it down so you can start getting your counters and start building up as mentioned. But it also benefits from playing cards that slow down the game. So, may not be for everyone.
So I think the coolest thing here is that I individually have done a good amount of research on commanders, and I have not heard of any of the three that you all brought up so far.
Really?
Let's go.
Good,
Go us.
Good work, team. Good work, team.
Wow.
But again, advocating for my opponents is generally a bad thing, but I don't care. I think Ezuri is really cool, and I didn't know Sage of Hours were templated like that. I was just thought
Really?
that you could I didn't know you could remove 10 counters and take 2 turns. Like that's sick.
Yep.
Yep.
It's got some great
Not-
options for that.
I feel like we're always going to group advocate a little bit, but not too much.
Mhm.
So compared to the Tyranid Precon to this, you're mostly stacking counters on one creature, which I feel is a lot easier to keep track of than 3 counters on each creature. This one might go up by another one. That feels to me more exhausting. So I understand your, previous issues with that, but this seems to be a little bit more streamlined. You had to worry about experience counters, and then just take that number plus the many counters on the creature. It's a little simpler mentally, but at the same time, if you're not feeling that strategy, understandable.
Yeah, I think this is an 8 as a commander, but I feel like it's a 7 for me right
Okay.
now where I'm at in life.
Hey, I'll take
Fair
it. It didn't
enough.
fail. All right. In the meantime,
Well-
here's an intermission.
Well, we're above so far, 3 for 3 above the halfway of they don't suck. So I think we're doing all right so far.
But I'm
We have
winning.
a long way to go.
Yeah, you haven't shamed the podcast yet, so like that's good.
Well,
do
we have
still
plenty
have
of time.
6 chances though.
All right. So I guess we're going to keep going back to Cameron.
Sure.
Oh,
you next?
am I number 2? Phil, you're a Death and Taxes player, right? You fetched
I
many
am.
equipment with Stoneforge Mystic in your day.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, this one doesn't have white, but it is an equipment deck. This is Stangg Echo Warrior. Stangg Echo Warrior. This is 2, a red and a green, for a legendary human warrior 3/4. And when it attacks, you create Stangg Twin, a 3/4 red and green human warrior creature token. It enters the battlefield tapped and attacking, and for each aura and equipment already attached to Stangg Echo Warrior, you make a token copy, put it on the token copy of Stangg Echo Warrior, and you basically get 2 of every equipment and aura that you already have on the first Stangg. So obviously you can do some really cool stuff like swinging at 2 different people with Swords of Fire and Ices or Swords of Feast and Famines. My thing I really like about this deck is you can play any of the like the enchantments, the auras that cantrip when they enter the battlefield. So you're just like, what red-green punchy deck has this kind of card advantage? Not that much. There's extra combat equipment, the one that has Mirrodin. So you would get 2 extra combats, right? Let's see. I played
that's
this card.
gross.
Yeah.
I think for Mirrodin actually
Does it say have
have to equip, right?
when equip a
although I
creature
was-
attack? Oh, enters tapped and attacking. So I'm sorry, you would still get 1 extra combat.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
But
Well,
would
the
that not
token-
go infinite?
No, it would still go in. Yeah, no. you could
Whenever
still
equipped
potentially
creature
go into it.
attacks, if it's the first combat phase of if it's the first
Oh,
combat phase.
There you
Oh,
go.
never mind
They
then.
figured it out.
I'm
Reading the card explains the card.
Darn
I
you
mean,
wizards.
this is a great Black Blade Reforged deck just because the big punchies. And then another Skull Clamp deck. You don't care about it not being an X1, but it dies at the end of turn. And then also token synergies, so like Parallel Lives. Although
Oh!
Now
but it would
the
sacrifice
token is
it.
legendary.
Yeah,
The token is legendary.
but you play Mirror
but
Box.
You can,
But-
you can do some cool stuff with that.
You can do some cool
we
stuff
can go
with that.
deeper.
Yes,
we can.
We can
I-
definitely. Jahira, which taps any token for a green. So you
So-
just go ahead.
not to steal your thunder on this, because you did mention something very particular that I thought of that I really think was a cool part of this, is the 4 Mirrodin equipment, or any type of equipment that brings a token with it when it enters the battlefield. Those are going to stick around.
Mm-hmm.
So, or rather, the token will. So you have a lot of like draft chaff commons that were from Phyrexia All will be one that will actually be pretty useful in this deck, because normally you didn't care that much about moving around the equipment, but now you're perfectly happy to throw it onto your commander to make a token copy, because you get to keep the army that comes around with it.
Also a sneaky Enchantress deck with Setessan Champion and Eidolon
Mhm.
Blossoms that care about enchantments entering the battlefield.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have played against this commander that built it as Enchantress.
Yeah,
it
that's sick.
was just all of the assorted like Argothian Enchantress style cards and every scary aura ever. My issue with these sorts of decks is they're kind of samey. Like you're really built so that your commander does the one thing every time. And like I think Ivy's the Dimir Fairy that does something kind of similar, right?
A Simic Fairy.
Simic Fairy.
Yes.
Yeah,
Ivy, Gleeful, whatever.
Ivy? Oh, yes, Ivy.
Yeah, whenever you target another thing, it targets her as well.
Yeah, and I think those are a cool deck to play against, but I don't know if that's like a deck that I want to, fire up 4 times in a weekend.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's understandable.
So, cool commander. Love playing against it. Love watching it doing its thing. I wouldn't build it. This one's a 6 for me.
Okay, that's a D. We're not failing.
I mean, whose grade scale are you using, buddy?
No, I am using the 10-point scale. We're not trying to grade every student between an 80 and a 90 here,
Excellent.
It's appreciated. So,
All right.
I guess I'll go ahead and steal next. I know you said you weren't really feeling typo, but I made this before you said that. And so we're going to roll with what I have written down. Do you like sea monsters? Do you like the ocean, Phil? Have you been to the ocean before?
When you lead on sea monsters, you have my attention.
Let's talk about Kiora, Sovereign of the Deep. This is a Simic commander. It's 3, a green and a blue, for a legendary creature, Merfolk Noble. I know the Merfolk is scaring you, might scare you off, but I promise, just hold with me for a second.
It's okay. The rest of the deck has no Merfolk.
Hold.
This is the only Merfolk in the deck, I promise. Unless you want to build it wrong. I don't know. It's a Vigilance and Ward 3. And we know how powerful Ward is. Whenever you cast a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent spell from your hand, look at the top X cards from your library, where X is that spell's mana value. You may cast a spell with mana value X or less, less than X from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You cast a big dumb 10 drop spell. You essentially kind of Sunbird's Invocation, another spell. The spell you cast from the reveal cards or look at the reveal does not have to be a sea monster itself, but you get rewarded for casting big dumb creatures that you can find other big dumb creatures in a massive board state. The Ward 3 keeps this thing around. I've played against it. One of our other channel members, Matt, has had this deck, and it keeps this thing around like a lot more than expected. You're just casting big dumb things, but also the card advantage you get from this means you don't have to go heavy into like the hard card advantage engines like Ristic Study and things like that. You can get card advantage from just progressing your game plan. I like that a lot.
No, like this is a slam dunk for me. Like,
yes,
I guess I like one Merfolk.
we found
the one.
Sea Mommy gets the exception. Sea Mommy is the exception.
You did say, well, never mind. Also, I know Up the Beanstalk's all the rage in other formats right now. This is an Up the Beanstalk deck.
Fair. That's fair. I never really thought about that.
No, and like this gives your already big spells like a pseudo cascade effect. Like this is really cool. This is like very much the like big green BS sort of stuff that I would like to do. This maybe doesn't fit my combat theme super well in that it's not going to do the biggest punchies, but like this effect is super cool. This one gets an 8 for me. This is the sort of stuff that I'd be looking for.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
Also, I can't remember the name of it, but there is a sea serpent that whenever one of these creature types smacks an opponent, you make a 6/6. So like, yeah, you will absolutely be able to do big punchies.
Oh yeah, when you cast some 9 mana Kraken, like it is there to rumble.
It's great.
It's spawning Kraken, and you make a 9/9, not a 6/6.
My apologies.
It's just better.
It's just better.
All right, Aaron, pull the slideshow back out.
Oh yeah, we're back on intermission. Let's go, baby. All right, Phil. If there's one creature type I know goes straight to your heart, It's dinosaurs, baby. Ghalta and Mavren. Dinosaur! Smiley face. So, Ghalta and Mavren is a 7 mana, so 3 green, white. For a legendary creature, Dinosaur Vampire. We don't get to play Sorin in this deck because Sorin's black, but whatever. This is a 12/12. We have a 7 mana 12/12. We are punching. Trample. Whenever you attack, not when Ghalta and Mavren attacks, but whenever you attack, you can either create a tapped and attacking XX green dinosaur creature token with Trample, where X is the greatest power among other attacking creatures, or create X/1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink, where X is the number of other attacking creatures. So, we can go big, we can go wide. We do it both. It's Selesnya, baby. We can fit so many tokens in this baby.
Look, if the meme is good, you gotta run it back.
Right.
For the third time.
The comedy comes in threes.
But yeah, that's the plan, right? We're just doing some big stompy things. You don't have to sell it too much on here. Obviously, we have a big, thick commander. You want to cast your 7 mana spells, like you said, like a game should be able to cast your 7-drop. Well, let's hope that table's agreeing with you, because this is a 7 mana creature. And honestly, I've been impressed anytime I've seen Ghalta and Mavren. It's been played on our channel twice now. And I think it's won both of the games it was in.
It has.
Yeah. It just...
That sounds like Chandler.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, this commander has put up results with us. I've been very impressed every time I've seen it. Yeah, it's Selesnya. It's a little bit straightforward, but it's also just...
It punches.
So huge. Like, dear God, man. This thing two-shots people.
I really like the look of this. The idea of playing Doubling Season in a way that just makes a very big token instead of 100 small tokens is very satisfying to me. And like, I do want to play like 6/6 creatures and above whenever possible. And I can also probably get some cool dinosaurs in there. I am a big fan of those like shifting Ceratops sorts of cards that have a lot of utility on them. Yeah, this was not one that I had considered, but this is in colors that I'm looking for. I'd say this one's an 8. This looks good.
Good stuff, yeah. And I'm not going to try to oversell on this thing, of course, but one of the good things as well is if you do want to go more... Well, if you want to go more the dinosaur route, one of the positives is we do have Lost Caverns of Ixalan coming out soon, where we will see more dinosaurs. We know the main set's not going to be dinosaur typal because they're not doing any of the original factions, but we do know that they will have more dinosaurs. They've already previewed one. So,
And there's a dinosaur precon, so they'll probably be printing more dinosaurs in that precon.
Correct. So, we have options. All right, intermission. Have a duck.
It's cute. It's a cute duck. All right. I suppose...
What's your third?
My third one. This one feels a little anticlimactic considering we talked about we're not a big fan of counters, but you don't have to build this one in counters. This is maybe the truest punchy deck out there. This is Halana and Alena partners. So
how do I spell that one?
Halana, Halana, and Alena. So A-L. Okay, Halana and Alena partners. 2 and Gruul for a 2/3 with first strike and reach, a human ranger. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put X/1/1 counters on a target creature you control, where X is Halana and Alena's power, and that creature gains haste until end of turn. So, I really took the punchy thing to heart, and like as I said, I think this might be the most true punchy deck out there. You play big things, you give them haste, and you send them in. So, my first card I want to send in immediately is Atali Primal Storm. That's a dinosaur, and you just like, okay, I played my 6/6. It's an 8/8. Give me all your cards. Smoosh. I know you said you're not a huge on the like 1/1 counter synergies, but like you can like put a lot more 1/1 counters on Halana and Alena themselves, and start making giving other things like 6+1/+1 counters. I think Jason, you've played this, right?
Yes, I did have. I played this because this was a patron deck they wanted us to play, where this was 1/1 counter based, and it did perform very well. Let me upsell my competition here. One of the things that's really great about this is actually how you can utilize combat tricks in this deck. You just need to get to the beginning of your combat with the power that's been increased. So you can cast cards like Invigorate for a free +4/+4. You're going to give an opponent 4 life, but who cares? You're swinging in with something that's now permanently much, much bigger. And, the deck performs extremely well, works extremely well with extra combat steps again, as you can get multiple triggers going in a turn. And I think the thing that really, honestly, is the biggest selling point for me on Halana and Alena is the haste that it provides.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a lot of good green creatures that are stompy, but the problem is they are slow, and it's really hard to give them consistent access to haste. And you don't want to play cards like Fervor in your deck too often. But Halana and Alena makes it so that if you're just playing one big creature every turn, that creature is swinging.
Yeah, and this can make a lot of things significantly scarier, like the old Gnawbone style cards, where they often don't make it around the table. Like getting them in and doing their thing with them can be really strong. I'd say this is appealing to me, but the competition is tough right now. I'm gonna say this one is out of 7.
Okay, we take those. Also, an amazing ancient brass. Each of the dragons, the big dragons.
Oh, and I love those D&D cards.
Yeah.
All right. I have one more thing to say on this though. Locally, around here, there is somebody who plays Halana and Alena Infect.
Ha!
Oh no,
that's evil, and I love it.
So new proliferate cards, very good. Because you already were trying to put 1/1 counters on your things. Now you also have a win con that's clocking in with your infect or toxic creatures. So there you go. That's also an option.
Honestly, I love that for that player. Like that is a really cool way to build that commander.
I'd like to pause here real quick to say that Jason has mentioned infect twice in the past 20 minutes. I'd like to ask Jason, who hurt you in the past week? Who hurt you?
Skittles.
Oh, this infect player.
Okay. I just had to know. Moving on, I wanted my last choice to go a little bit off the beaten path. While you can do this punchies, it kind of has a different synergy. I mentioned earlier, you're a big fan of Into the Battlefield triggers. You're a D&T player, Delina Wild Mage. You're copying things to have Into the Battlefield or attack triggers. Preston is Into the Battlefield deck. Let's try the inverse. Let's try sacking triggers. Mazirek Kraul Death Priest. It is a Golgari. I had a brain fart for a second. Golgari commander. 3, a black and a green. Legendary creature, insect shaman. It's got flying. Whenever a player sacrifices another permanent, put +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. And it's a 2/2. So, going off of this, is a go wide deck, right? You can go wide. If you get a bunch of tokens, you can just kind of flood the board and then load them up. I know, again, after hearing you say other things, you're not a big fan of a bunch of dice. So, again, I know it's probably a 4. I'm shooting for a 4 at this point. They can't all be winners. I know that. But at least I still have my sales pitch here. Taking advantage of your opponent's sacrifice triggers, you have other decks out there that are aristocrat strategies. Getting to punish them and gain advantage off that is really appealing. Fetch lands, playing a higher power level potentially. Getting to benefit on buffing your entire board because someone cracks a fetch land. It's pretty sick. I'm not going to lie. A card I like to note is Smallpox. Smallpox can potentially get you up to 8 +1/+1 counters on all of your creatures.
All right. I like it. Ethan, I think this is a great idea, but I think you did a crap job of selling it. The way that you were supposed to sell this card to me was to use the word treasure.
Mm-hmm. You have a real... I'm sorry, I'm not with the 2023 times of treasure being the main thing to do in the format. I'm stuck back in 2018 in La La Land. You're right. Treasure literally just says, hey, dogs are extortionists, buff my board. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it feels like if you bring this to the right pod where people are at that higher power casual mark and are doing treasures and are doing fetch lands, this could be really cool.
Mm-hmm. Mazirek has flying itself, so evasion. So if you're trying to get in with punchies for command damage, Mazirek is actually an option And you're in Golgari colors, so if you sacrifice your own creatures, you have ways to recur those. And then cards like Playcrafter that are mass sack effects. Again, Playcrafter removes 3 potential creatures and gets you 4+1+ counters on everything. That is just an anthem for progressing your board state.
Yeah, this is a neat commander. This commander makes you reevaluate a lot of cards that are like bad in a vacuum. I think this one is very interesting. I think the initial sales pitch was bad, but I think I'm coming around on this one. This one gets written down. This one's an 8.
Hey, good
No,
job.
I'll give you.
All right.
I'll give you something. Let's bump that to a 9. All right. You get to play Innocent Blood in this deck, and it'd be a good card.
I love that card.
You're
so
playing
much.
Pox.
Yeah,
you're
you
playing
can play,
like
you
all
can play
those.
Smallpox.
You play
And you're
straight
playing
up
cards
Pox,
that make
dude.
Yeah, Pox, Smallpox, Fraying Omnipotence to make their editor's life hell real quick.
Yeah.
All these cards that make you sacrifice cards, you can just take advantage of. And then, I mean, if you're going on a go-wise strategy, you have enough creatures to sacrifice. So we're talking, Scoot Swarm. You're talking, Vengeance Zendikar. Just taking advantage of you playing lands already. Playing fetch lands in your own deck because it's a player, not necessarily your opponents. So your own fetch lands also just buff your things, which is just kind of insane. So that with the Vengeance Zendikar, you getting some big plant boys.
This also may be the best Pitiless Plunderer deck in the format.
Yes.
Oh, by far. So amazing.
I was going to say, in addition to Pitiless Plunder, this deck's actually been around for a long time. This commander came out with the Mavren precon. I built it when that deck came out, and one of the things that was really, really fun to do with this was Spawn of Ulamog or Pawn of Ulamog. There we go.
Yes, Pawn of Ulamog.
The vampire that whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you make an Eldrazi spawn that you can sacrifice for a colorless mana. A self-sacrificing token that comes in anytime you are killing off any of your non-token things is very, very potent for how this deck functions. It does have this weird situation of trying to flux in like what has just come in to sacrifice versus what you need to make sure sticks around to get the counters so you can actually kill things. But eventually Mazirek will actually get to the point of just one-shotting somebody. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I'm not sure which effects exist within this chunk of the color pie, but like there are plenty of things that give your opponents treasures, and they'll use them. So this is neat.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of options. And
Do you need to give them treasures? Because I think they make enough anyway nowadays.
They can have a treasure as a treat.
As a treat.
On me. On the house.
Be wary in Commander anytime I'm giving you a gift.
Always a catch.
All right. Back to the duck.
Back to the duck.
Back to the slides.
The duck. All right. So, Phil, you might have noticed a common theme among all of the commanders that have been presented thus far. They all have green. We saw Stompy and said, green is the way. But what if I told you you didn't have to play green to get Stompy? Let me introduce you to my friends, Goro-Goro and Satoru. This is 3 mana in Grixis colors for a legendary creature Goblin Human. It's a 3/4. Whenever one or more creatures you control that entered the battlefield this turn deal combat damage to a player, create a 5/5 red Dragon Spirit creature token with flying, and for 1 and a red, you can give all of your creatures haste until end of turn. We're playing Grixis Punchies today, which, realistically, it's also like basically red Punchies with some blue there, but you know what? We can do so many cool things with this deck, right? Alright, we can do Tricky Ninja stuff, we can do Haste Typal, we can do Sneak and Show, we can do Goblins, we can do Dragons, we can do Phoenixes! This is by far the best Phoenixes commander out there. If you want to play Arclight Phoenix, here's the deck to do it. Let's just keep sacrificing our things and making them come back so they can swing and then sacrifice them again and do cool stuff with like the new Garna that whenever things die in combat, you get to draw a card. It's sick. You get some really cool options with this. And also, this deck can fit so many weird decks in it.
Thank you.
The 4th time was the best, obviously.
Comedy comes in force?
Comedy comes in force. That's where we're here first. Well, yeah, that's what I got for you. You get to do just some really interesting things with this commander. A lot of cool options, a lot of great ways to build around it.
You
It's one of those
excluded
ones
one,
where-
Jason?
Oh, sure.
You
Go ahead.
excluded one? It's a double strike tribal, too. If you can get double strike on stuff, you get 2 5/5s.
Yeah, there's a really cool interaction of, like, if you do first strike with ninjas, that does really cool stuff. There's all sorts of really unique interactions that you get to do with this deck.
I have played against this commander many times. I don't know that I've ever beaten it. This card is absolutely horrifying. Like, giving your creatures haste is powerful, and then the random 5/5 bodies that it produces spirals so quickly. I think this card is actually just too fast for a lot of the game, like the casual games that I would play at a Magic Con. Like, I like this commander. I think this commander is very strong, but I think this people just gets people dead, like, so fast.
But we like putting him in the graveyard. Get in the forever box.
Get in.
To defend Jason's choice, I think Phoenix Typal probably won't get him as dead as some other strategies. If
Very true.
As a tune strategy, yes, this thing does some dumb stuff. Like, that is for certain. It just can kill people. But that's the beauty of Commander. You can kind of want to build your deck at a certain power level to strive for certain goals. And you could definitely build this at a level that is more reasonable. Though, to also hurt my opponent, I'm breaking the mold here. Sitting down for the random opponent might see that say that's dangerous, and then there's the social contract element of having to describe what's in a deck and have proper rule zero conversations, so you don't just get hated out of the game immediately.
Yeah, I think it would be hard to have the self-control in building that commander, because it would definitely be we could and absolutely do the evil things.
Absolutely. All right, well, we got a grade for it, or this one?
I think on raw commander strength, like this is an incredibly strong commander. I think we're gonna have to use the halfway scale here. I think we're gonna have to go a 7.5 because I think this is a great suggestion, but I think I would just kill people too quickly for my own liking with it.
All right, and with that, I think that's everything we wanted to talk about here.
So I would like to bring up one, because you did bring up the commander that I was thinking about doing in my own research.
Okay.
So I was considering building Zopandrel, Hunger Dominus.
Oh, yeah.
So this is 5 and 2 green for a 4/6 Phyrexian Horror with Reach. At the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until end of turn. And for 2 Phyrexian green and sacrificing 2 other creatures, you can put an indestructible counter on it.
Okay.
This card kills people.
What do you all think of this one? Because this is one that I was thinking about for, like, big green punchies.
So, from experience, this card gets people dead pretty quick as well. So that'd be my main concern because you're doubling every single creature's power and toughness. So you could build up a board, and then if you give them there's so much you can do here. And also, it's a very potent threat. You give it indestructible very easily at the cost of 4 life, and then before a board wipe, to sack 2 creatures. So it's going to stick around. It is very good.
My mind goes to Greater Good. This might be the best Greater Good deck in Magic. So you just make a board of 12/12s and then just start churning through. But and Life's Legacy and all those cards that care about that kind of stuff. But yeah, this gets people dead. But also, don't forget, this is a 7-mana commander, like Ghalta and Mavren. So, like, there is definitely consideration to that, because you're probably not getting it down before turn 3 or 4. 4 probably be the earliest.
You're in green. It's probably turn 2, right?
It's turn 1. You can turn 1 it. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
I'm playing a 7-mana commander, so my Jeweled Lotus is fine, right, guys?
Yeah,
the downside I see is a 7-mana commander. You can't cast Stinging Study in this deck, which is the true
Ethan,
crime.
bye. Ethan, cry.
All right, time to find out if I can kick people.
Yeah. We have a meme. Ethan has a meme that every deck can play Stinging Study.
If you squint real hard, you can play it in that deck.
Roll 0. Roll 0, right?
So, honest opinion on Zopandrel, and this might just be a little bit of my own bias. I'm not a huge fan of mono green, or rather, I should say, green is like the one color in Commander I avoid playing if I can. So this has always been a little bit weird for me. That's why I had this red aggressive deck at the end there. Zopandrel works very, very well. There are decks that can kind of accomplish similar things without doubling power. Which would be things like taking extra combat steps is a great way of accomplishing a similar goal, because you functionally double the power by making them attack twice, so long as they can survive the first time. I think Zopandrel is pretty cool, though. For mono green Stompy, the goal of get the biggest dudes out and have those guys swinging. Make sure, Ghalta is my best friend and Ghalta will be swinging. I think Zopandrel's a really good choice.
Yeah, and if you play it alongside other power doublers, like, is it Unnatural Growth?
Yes.
Yeah, like, curving Unnatural Growth into that over the course of a couple of turns to get the, like, double is something that rustles my jimmies.
Yep.
Also, since Jason hasn't brought it up yet, this is a sneaky infect deck. Somebody had to.
You're right. I'll give you that.
But you get to play
turn one Glistener Elf. Don't worry about it.
My favorite type of Glistener Elf.
Do y'all remember there was like a modern deck so long ago that literally just played the green, like freaking like the 3 green like 5/5s. And it just warms my little Timmy heart that those have a home in this. Like Gigantosaurus, it's literally a 5-mana 10/10. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Steel Leaf Champion is pretty good, right? That's a 3-mana 5/4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and can't be blocked by creatures power 2 or less.
Yeah, and I think it makes a lot of the big fatty boom boom scarier. Like, take something like Tyrannox Rex, an 8/8 trample haster. That at a baseline being a 16/16 trample haster is just like, whoa.
Yeah. And there's of course going to be more very big green creatures. One of the things that actually made me think of, it's definitely not worth doing, but the second we were talking about doubling power and just trying to get big creatures in play, I'm sitting here wondering, is there a way for me to just jam a Phyrexian Dreadnought into this deck somehow? I know I'm talking to the wrong legacy content creator for jamming Phyrexian Dreadnoughts, but
there's some colorless ways to do it, right? Like, there's Illusory Mask, there's a 3-mana artifact.
Scroll the Master?
Yeah, that sounds right. That you can do it as well. There's a couple ways, or you could what is it? Is it Wispwood Elemental can let you manifest some stuff, so you can like worldly tutor it, and
you could also just play it post combat and sacrifice for the requisite power needed.
Right. Right. You just have some random token that's lying around that got big enough, and you're just like, yeah, you've done your job. Get out of here. move aside for the real big boys. But yeah, I think that's everything, right? Obviously, there's more things we could be exploring. Like, I didn't want to get into like partner things because I thought about whether or not you'd want to do something like Karlach with Raised by Giants. That's a deck I've played before.
That one could have been in the PowerPoint slideshow. That one I know both those cards, and I am a Karlach believer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you are.
So there's a lot of great options, and I love the one that you gave us. Is there anything else? Anything that you you want to take a look into and maybe get a brew going?
So the ones I wrote down from today on my like seriously consider list were Tanazir Quandrix, Kiora Sovereign of the Deep, Ghalta and Mavren, Mazirek, and Karlach and Raised by Giants.
I love how the one that Jason just took and he was like, I threw it away.
Oh, like I love Karlach. She's in my Delina deck. I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3. Attempted to romance Karlach. Can't talk about why it didn't work, but I messed something up, and I'm not gonna get to see those romance scenes this playthrough. But Raised by Giants is something that I think is super interesting, and Karlach plus that is horrifying.
I have been destroyed by that on stream before, about 2 years ago, right? But how long did Baldur's Gate come out? Was that 2021?
Year and a half ago, I think.
Year and a half.
Whenever it came out, I know that Jason stomped my face in really quickly, and that stream was pretty short for me.
I may have actually killed the whole table on turn 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one go fast.
I didn't intend to, but it happened. Ancient Tomb go brew.
I was going to say, when the opportunity presents itself, you're not going to not kill everyone, especially if they're your close friends.
I may actually just have to send that list to you, Phil, if I still have that kicking around.
Yeah, if you have it, for research purposes, I'll take
it. All right. I think that is about everything we wanted to say. Phil, where can we find you?
I'm Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU. You can find me posting Magic gameplay videos 5 days a week on YouTube under the handle ThrabenU, and you can find me on Twitter under the same name. Thank you so much for your collective knowledge here. I'm mostly a Legacy guy, and I love Casual Commander, but the format's huge, and now there's just so many commanders that even if you browse, the top 100 commanders, you're only scratching the surface of what's out there, and it's legitimately tough to do research. And I hope listeners found this useful of how do you go about the process of recommending some good commanders to your friends? This is it. This is what you do.
Yep. I think we did a pretty good job overall. We for the most part, passing grades everywhere.
Yeah. Nobody failed.
Maybe a few that didn't get there, but we had a lot more success than failure, and that's a great place to be right now. So thank you again, Phil. We really appreciate you coming out and joining us on the channel today.
Cheers. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the night. And listeners, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Absolutely. Don't forget, check out our main channel for EDH gameplay every Saturday. Like, comment, subscribe. Let Phil, give him some love, please. Because if he needs more recommendations, we'll have them in the comments for you. And if you feel like supporting us directly, you can find us on Patreon. All the links are in the description or in our link tree. This has been Jason, Cameron, Ethan, and Phil. Y'all have a great day.